Hi, folks. Welcome back to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. Every week, I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well being and fitness through endurance sports. I hope they spark some possibility in you, leave you with some tips, and perhaps inspire you to perspire. This episode is also available on leading podcast platforms if audio is your thing. Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it. Hit like if you like this video, and remember to leave your comments. Let us know if you took something away. In the house today is someone who has successfully pursued her passion for ultras, successfully navigating her commitments as a parent, spouse, and a professional. Being a recreational athlete can be demanding for all, but it seems women have it more difficult for a variety of reasons. It's not surprising the percentage of South Asian women participating in marathons and ultras in Americas is relatively low. We dig into why and how running entered her life. What's her secret sauce for juggling commitments without sacrificing self-care? The love for trail running and how to do it safely. And finally, what's next in her journey? Let's welcome Ekta Basu. Hey Ekta, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Thank you, Santosh. Thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure having you. You're, an accomplished recreational athlete. Doing some cool stuff in the ultra scene, and an inspiration, especially among South Asian women, I think, who I don't see many, and I
hmm
maybe I don't have the exact data, but I don't see many South Asian women out there in the ultras. Um, so we want to talk a little bit about your journey and see how you're doing it. So maybe our audience can take a few lessons from your journey and get into ultras. Uh,
Wonderful, wonderful.
right. So before that,
Sure,
let me maybe give it back to you, hand it back to you, and have you do a personal introduction, and then we'll jump in.
sure. Thank you, Santosh. So I'm Ekta Basu. I've been in the Bay Area for the last 20 years. I have two kids, a 16-year-old, a 14 and a half-year-old, two dogs, and a husband, and I love running. Love running more than anything. If you don't find me at home, I'm outside somewhere. So that's me. And I love Twix. Twix candy bars are my favorite. So
Okay.
that's me in a nutshell.
And Twix did not sponsor this show.
We should have got them to do that.
You should have got that. Yeah. Beautiful. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, maybe we should get into a little bit of a flashback here and see where it all started for you. So first of all, how did running come into your life? Let's hear about that.
Sure. So I've been a tomboy growing up. Um, Always out there, with the guys playing cricket, running around. I was very physically active in school, took part in all the events that they had. My first 10K was a road race when I was 13.
Oh
And I
wow.
remember running on the streets in Pune with these PMT buses and the bullock carts and, just running. And that was my first experience with a road race. My mom and dad are my most ardent fans, and they were there, watching me run. And at the finish, I nearly fainted, but it was just an amazing experience. So that was in high school. And then in college, I played hockey, basketball, soccer. I did track for the university and the state. And one of my first memories of running was in '95. They built the Chhatrapati Shivaji Stadium for the national games in Pune. Gigantic stadium with 100 seating capacity, and I was doing a 400-meter race there. And there's my mom and dad in the stadium. The stadium was empty. We didn't have a lot of parents who traveled um, to watch their kids in sports, but then there were my parents over there, and just seeing them there was so overwhelming, and it was such an amazing experience. My dad, to date, when I head out for a run, he's the first call I make in the morning, and he's always like, fight, 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 go for it. He calls me daddy long legs. So I mean, just the support I've got even from a child playing sports has kind of transformed me as a person now with what I do. So that was me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's
Growing
awesome.
up, just always out there playing and running.
Wow.
Nothing's
So you
changed.
did a 10K when you were 13. And so this was like a stadium 10K, or was it like a road
This
10K?
this was a road 10K,
Hmm.
which is why the PMT buses and the bullock carts and the cyclists and
Yeah.
just everybody in tow on the road, and they were wondering, okay, why is this person running? Because at that time in India, you didn't see a
Yeah.
whole lot of people running on the road. You were
Yeah.
running only if you were in trouble, or you stole something.
Yeah.
Nobody would just run. So it was
Yeah.
a very unique experience.
What year was this?
This should have been in 90. I don't want to give away
Wow.
my age, but it was about 89, 90.
Wow. Because that's fascinating. I didn't know there were 10Ks, road 10Ks outside I know there were stadium 10Ks back then,
Mm-hmm.
but that's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, so then what happened? And obviously it seems like you've had an early start and you've had a
Yes.
lot of encouragement at home,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like it's a core part of your persona to be in athletics. So which is not always the case, and that's a terrific message that if you can give somebody an early start, it stays with you for life in a way, right?
Yes, in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. So then in college, I took part in a lot of events. I had a broken nose playing hockey, broken ankle. So I went through the entire, I came kind of full circle with all the injuries. And then I got a coach to train me because they said I could have been the next PD Usha. I was that good.
Hmm.
But at
Wow.
16 and 17, at that age, my priorities were very different.
Hmm.
I wanted to go out and hang around with friends and go for parties, and I didn't want to work as hard. Which, if I could tell my 16-year-old self, if I
Mhm.
had a message for that person, I would tell that person, go for it, follow your dreams. It's
Hmm.
it's it's gonna take time and effort and dedication and commitment, but see it through.
Hmm.
And that's something I failed to do back then.
Okay. That's a kind of a profound realization in a way,
Yes,
right?
yes, and then now moving on to ultras. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but ultras has taught me that you stick with it. You may not come first. If you come last, hey, at least you're finishing, but just stay committed to it. So
Yeah.
those lessons, though I failed then, I've been able to use them to better me as a human being now.
Yeah. So before we get into the ultras, let's get back into how you got running back into your adult life.
Hmm.
I think like you said, got busy with friends and other priorities. Fast forward, you probably started working, marriage, and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So when did running come back into your life?
Sure.
Yeah, let's hear about that.
Sure. So I came to the US in 2000, came in for an MBA, got married, had kids, and then while my kids were born, I had gestational diabetes with them. So I was shooting
Hmm.
up insulin like 6 times a day, checking my weight and stuff. But of course, that didn't help, because I gained weight anyways. And then by the time my daughter was born, I was 200 pounds. I didn't recognize myself. I was like, oh my goodness, what happened to Ekta? Where
Hmm.
did she go in all this? And that's when I figured, okay, I need to do something. And it was a very knee jerk reaction for me. I had heard of these marathon training programs here in the Bay Area. I reached out to the Asha training program in early January, but they mentioned that our program starts later in the year. And I was like, okay, if I don't do it now, I'm probably never going to do it. So I spent a
Hmm.
whole day looking for programs in the Bay Area, and I found this AIDS program that was run out of San Francisco. So I signed up with them. They said, okay, you have to do fundraising, and we'll train at the Los Gatos Creek Trail. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So that's how I got into my first marathon. So my first marathon was a San Francisco full marathon, and it
Wow.
was it was an amazing experience.
So you just one day woke up, you had kids, you suddenly realized you had you were not getting necessarily healthier or not looking healthier,
Hmm.
feeling healthier, and you just decided to do a full marathon just like that.
Yes, just like that. Because I was
Oh,
like, if I go bit by bit, uh,
yeah.
I I don't want to get satisfied with the small successes. I'm going to go home or
Yeah.
go big.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I decided, I'm going to go for it. And if I fail, I'm going to try again. But
Mm.
I'm gonna try for something like big.
Yeah. And what year was this that you
This
signed up for the
was in
San Francisco?
2008.
2008. Okay. All right. So San Francisco Marathon. Yeah, I love the San Francisco Marathon, and I did it around that time, I guess. No, a little later maybe. But the
I
whole I
see.
the the experience of running and the bridge in the bridge was just amazing
Yeah, it's
in the San Francisco
exhilarating.
Marathon. All right. So how long did you take to train and how many months did you take to train to get on to the marathon, first marathon, and
So
how was it?
it was an amazing experience. So the training program was for 4 months.
Hmm.
Because they were based out of San Francisco, they trained once a week for a long run at the Los Gatos Creek Trail, and then during the week we were supposed to run on our own.
Okay.
And so I would just, put the kids in the stroller and go around
Hmm.
running during the week, and then the weekend meet up with a larger group. But that's when I got the running bug, I would think. And finishing that marathon, my kids and my sister and my husband were there at the finish. And for me, that moment, finishing a marathon was essentially like, giving birth to a child, because you're finishing and you're going through these million emotions. When is it going to be done? The fear, am I going to, and
Hmm.
am I going to be alive? Am I going to hate the experience? What am I going to eat now? Who's going to look after me if anything happens? Who's going to look after my kids if anything happens? It's the fear, the exhilaration, the uncertainty of finishing, and then this final relief of, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's done. I'm never going to do this again, but hey, I want to do this again.
Yeah.
It was just very addictive. So
And
that
four
was
months is not a lot of time. And that's about 16 weeks for someone from almost couch to full marathon. And how did it go for you physically in the marathon? Did you feel pain, cramps, and all that, or you fine? You were okay?
I was dying.
Okay, that's like
I was
that's because
dying
4 months
because
of training.
yes, 4 months, and there were only long runs and shorter. It wasn't a very
Yeah.
structured program.
Okay.
And so there was no nutrition involved, there was no stretching involved. It was just, you're out there and you're doing your thing. So I died, but
Hmm.
I came out stronger for it. And I figured that, hey, with limited training, if I can pull off a marathon, I barely finished in like 6 hours or something, but it gave me hope for
Yeah.
greater things to come.
Yeah. And then what happened? Did you sign up for the next one right there?
Of course, of
Which
course
one?
I did.
Which was your
I
second
signed
one?
up for the San Francisco Marathon for the next year.
Oh, okay.
So I did that
And
a few times. And I mean, San Francisco is such an amazing city, so
yeah,
it
yeah.
was a good experience.
And it seems like you've done a whole bunch of full marathons and half
Hmm.
marathons, road race, right? Probably about 4 5 years. You really got into it.
Yes. So after I finished the San Francisco Marathon, I ran alone for a few years,
Hmm.
and then I re-engaged with Team Asha. So I
Mhm.
ran with them, and then did a couple of runs on my own. And then in 2013, I got my sister to run her first half at in San Francisco, in the San Jose Rock and Roll.
Mhm.
And it was there that I met with a whole lot of coaches again. And it was just nice to be part of
Yeah.
a group, because that was something I missed. Because when I joined Team Asha, or the AIDS Foundation at the beginning, with my kids being so little, I noticed that
Mm.
I was going for the run, finishing the run, and coming back home to make sure that they were taken care
Mm.
of. So I missed the social aspect.
Mm.
But by that time, my kids were a little older, so I figured, let's give it another shot. And then I met with Coach Raman, and he said, hey, I have a winter running group, because typically in the winter a lot of programs are
Mhm.
shut down because everybody's resting.
Right.
So he was like, why don't you come run with me? And I've just been running with him and his group ever since.
That's amazing. And you also mentioned you had little children, little kids,
Hmm.
and uh, these 5 years, 2008 to 2013, must not have been easy. You seem to have balanced it pretty well. So if you were to, what would be your advice to people who want to get into running, especially women who have little children? How
Hmm.
did what worked for you in terms of just balancing training and family commitments?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing for me was prioritizing,
Mm.
what needed to be done, what I could push out, because as a mom, you want to do everything.
Yeah.
You don't want to take help from anybody. But I needed to give in and give up for me to gain something. So I think for me that was the biggest lesson. And I also needed to figure out that I shouldn't feel as guilty if I want to do something for myself.
Mm.
If women go shopping and they go to the spa or they go to the gym, that's something tangible. But to
Mm.
tell somebody, hey, I'm just going out for a run for 4 5 hours in the hills, people don't really get that. They're like,
Yeah.
what are you getting from it? What are you running from? What
Mm.
is bothering you? And I'm like, I just enjoy being out there. It
Yeah.
makes me happy. So
Yeah.
coming back to your question, I think prioritizing is huge. Also communicating with your family as to, okay,
Mm.
it's 2 o'clock, this is where the kids need to be. If you can't
Mm.
handle it, let me know. I will juggle things at my end to make sure that the kids are where they need to be at. um Also, there's a lot of give and take,
Yeah.
and finding that balance with your family is very important for me. If I can leave the house knowing that my family is happy, I have a more enjoyable run,
Yeah.
rather than my husband is like, why are you going now, there's no dinner, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I need to go anyways. Then when
Yeah.
I know when I come back there's going to be a shitstorm brewing. But making sure, okay, there's food, this is what you'll need to do. I'm going to go, I'm going to come back, mommy's going to come back happy, mommy's happy, everybody's happy. Mommy's taking
Yeah.
care of herself, everybody's going to be in a good place. I think once I came to that realization, and let people know that it's important for me. you know
Yeah.
the other thing I noticed is if you have to spend money on a shrink or go see a therapist for a few hours, that's very acceptable.
Mm.
That's okay because you're taking care of yourself. But why would somebody spend 3 4 hours running in the sun, being physically tortured, because it does take a toll on you?
Yeah.
What are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
Like for my 40th birthday, I did 40 kilometers. And while I was there, while I was running, I'm still thinking, why couldn't I be like the other women? For your birthday, you go to Napa, or you
Mm.
go out for a weekend getaway and you just lounge on the beach. And here I am running in the sun because that's important to me.
Yeah.
And when people around me and my friends and my family realized how much it means to me,
Mm.
um, you know, it
Yeah.
they give in and they're happy that you're happy.
Beautiful. Lot of gold in what you just shared. One is definitely what I would like the audience to kind of crystallize on is, one is being guilt free. I think that's a huge
Hmm.
point, right? If you cannot absolve yourself of guilt of stepping away for self care or doing something that you're passionate about, you're never going to be able to do it,
True.
right? that
Absolutely.
that's that's probably the inception point. That's where it starts. And then, you like you said, you the other point that you made, which is communication.
Hmm.
Maybe to err on the side of caution, over communicating,
Yeah.
just making sure everybody's aware about what's available, what your schedules are. That's another great point that you made, because probably some of us don't communicate too well within our
Yeah.
family. We just want to go
Because
do what we want to do.
yeah, and we assume that people know our schedule, and we
Yeah.
assume that, okay, everybody knows what role everybody is playing, whether it's your
Yeah.
oldest kid, your youngest kid, who's going to take the dogs out. We assume a lot of things as we go about our lives.
Yeah.
And it just overall, I think, people have gotten so busy that
Yeah.
we fail to communicate.
No, that's very powerful, powerful. And the third part you mentioned, which is also a very powerful point, is running. You love running. It makes you feel good. It's beneficial. You know about it. Not everybody understands it. Like you said, if you went to a spa, people would say, "Yeah, it's okay," but why do you run?
Mm.
That's another aspect of communication, either through you know education or sharing other examples. So people are listening to this, folks. Running is great for a lot of people. So you know that's a key message as well. So thanks for
Mm.
sharing that. Very
Sure.
powerful. So that kind of explains, how you were able to scale those 4 5 years in the road running space, and
Hmm.
then you kind of pivoted into trails, right?
Hmm.
So how did that happen, and why?
Sure. So once I was done with the marathons, I started running in Rancho San Antonio.
Mhm.
And being in the Bay Area, we are so blessed to have these amazing trails around here. So work was stressful. The kids were kind of transitioning from elementary to middle school, and here I was running the hills, and it was you feel free. It's liberating. You hear the birds chirp. The air is crisp and cool, and it's just getting away from everything.
Mhm.
It's being one with nature. I put my headset on sometimes and just listen to music for hours and hours and hours, and it takes you away.
Mhm.
People do drugs to go away. A lot of
Mhm.
runners, I mean, you've talked to a lot of endurance athletes and a lot of runners in general. We don't need drugs. We just find running shoes and go out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the other thing I do is I always have my running box in my car. It has electrolytes, it has socks, shorts, everything I need that if I get a chance to go
Mhm.
out and run, I'm gone.
Great point. That's a great point. Good tip. Note it down, guys. I'm noting it down. I don't have a kid in my car. I want to keep it. Yeah, that's a great
Yep,
point. Yeah,
it's
go
it's
ahead.
very handy to have. If there's a half an hour here, half an hour there, I'm dropping the
Yeah,
kids off for soccer practice, basketball practice. What do you do? Just lace up and go.
yeah, yeah,
But the trails are just there's just something about the greenery, and it just takes you away to a different place.
yeah,
And then once I started running out there, I'm like, okay, what next? Let's sign up for an ultra. So
yeah.
that's the first race I signed up for me was for the American River 50 miler.
Hmm. Wow.
And it was amazing experience. I remember the first mile, I was like, how far more do we have? It was just the culmination of all the training and the exhilaration. And to date, all my running friends, they laugh when we talk about the American River because they're like, oh yeah, Ekta in the first mile wanted to know how far more do we have.
That
And
sounds like the kids behind the car, right?
are we
When you're
there yet? Are
driving,
we
it's
there yet?
like,
Yeah.
are we there yet?
Exactly. So it was just an amazing experience, that one. And then I remember we did this other race called Avenue of the Giants a few weeks after the American River. And the American River race, the 50 miler, totally wiped me out mentally and
Mhm.
physically.
Mhm.
At the Avenue of the Giants, the marathon with all these big redwoods, and you're running through these shady patches and all. At the 24th mile, I don't, my legs just gave in, and I sat cross-legged on the floor on this trail with these redwoods and runners passing by, and Coach Raman was next to me, and I was like, I'm not going to move, and I'm in tears and I'm crying and I'm telling him I'm done. I'm not going to move from here. You do what you need to do, but I'm not going to move. So he stood very patiently and quietly, and he watched me throw my tantrum, and finally he was like, okay, are you done? Let's go now, let's finish it under 5. And very begrudgingly, like this petulant child, and I got up and wiped my tears, and we hobbled along, and I finished it under 5. So that
Nice.
that was also a huge lesson for me, in that yes, you have very bad moments in life, but that doesn't mean it's okay. It's okay to realize your fears, and it's okay to accept failure for a bit, but know that you have more in you. So yes, you're
Mhm.
accepting failure briefly, but you know take a deep breath and move on and finish what you've started.
Yeah. And you seem to have moved from running marathons, which is 26.2
Hmm.
miles, and then boom, you go to a 50 mile, right? So in terms of difference in your approach to training, and A and B, running roads and running trails are so different in terms of
Hmm.
technique, right? So did you find that transition challenging at all, both from training and running in the trails?
Not really. For me, I'm a very fluid person. I'm very
Mhm.
easy. So a lot of people get into the technicalities of what trail running
Mhm.
is and what road running is, and timing and distances and hydration and what gear you need. I was just in for the ride.
Mhm.
Even personally, I don't get down to the nitty gritties of things. I'm not very analytical.
Mhm.
I'm just I just go with the flow. So for me personally, it was a very easy transition.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of others have very different opinions on this, but for me, it was just about the distance.
Okay.
I want to push myself. I want to push myself to a point where I can probably fail and then see what happens. I don't want to. I tell my kids the same thing. Don't do things that you know you're going to be good at. Find
Mhm.
what you're going to be bad at, fail at it, and then figure out how you can fix it. So to answer
Right.
your question, it was a fairly easy transition for me. Though, however, running trails and running uphill comes with a very different, mental makeup. As in, I go out for a regular run, and I'm thinking this uphill is never going to end. I've been running like it's what seems like forever, but I've only done a mile. It's so hot. Where can I find a tree? Do I walk in the tree, in the shade, or do I jog in the shade? There's just so much going on, which
Mhm.
is so much more exciting for the mind than doing a road race where it's all about finishing at in a certain time.
Mhm.
But on the trails, you're just out there. You're letting your mind wander, and you also feel a sense of gratitude for being there.
Mhm.
Very few people have that privilege of being healthy
Yep.
and being able, and more importantly, being willing to get out there and put yourself out there.
Yep.
So trail running is gives you a lot of time to think.
Absolutely. And, to your point about beautiful trails in California, I always keep telling people that if you're in California and if you're not running those trails, you are not getting a return on investment of living in
True.
California.
Very true.
You should move to
Yeah.
Texas. So that's absolutely good use of being in California. I agree.
Yep.
The beautiful trails out there. And talking about running in trails, you talked about being in that moment in your second race where you almost
Hmm.
gave up, and I was kind of so it's kind of the pain cave people talk about, right? Which
Yeah.
is a common phenomena in ultra running and trail running,
Hmm.
no matter how many runs, how many you've had.
Yeah.
So, did you encounter pain caves, and have you kind of come to some kind of a your own personal methodology of
Mantra.
dealing with it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, every race is a new race. Every time you're out there, it's a new challenge. There's no two races that are alike, and it's always about it's just you keep going. I have a couple of bracelets on my hand. One of them says 1 mile at a time. The other one says, it's about the storm and the warrior. The storm tells the warrior, I'm coming, and the warrior says, I am the storm. So in my weaker moments, I keep looking at my bracelets. When I run, they
Mm,
constantly go ching, ching, ching. Um, so that's a constant reminder of where I'm at to stay in the moment. But pain for running is inevitable. It's there,
mm,
and I think a lot of ultra runners are addicted to that pain.
mm,
We're addicted to the hurt we give ourselves, and to see how far we can overcome and how far
mm,
we can push ourselves. Yes, there are many moments where we're down in the dumps and we're grumbling and bitching and moaning, but it's that flip of the switch where you're like, you know what, I've got this, I can do
mhm,
this. I remember doing the Fort Ord 50K, one of my favorite races. um Halfway through, uphill, barren, I had bursitis pain, my knee was killing me, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I had no phone. So I found this very elderly gentleman that I went up to, in tears, and he was pretty scared of wondering what I'm going to do with him, because I was like, all haggard and sweaty, and we're just in pain. And I asked him if I can borrow his phone. So very begrudgingly, he gave it to me, and he's like, what's going on? So I said, I just need to call my family. So I called my husband, and he was with the kids, and they were all in the car going for lunch. And I called him, and I cried and cried, and I blamed him for encouraging me to be out there, because I'm like, why are you putting me through this hurt? And I just wanted to vent at that time. And then I heard my
Mhm.
kids, and they were like, mommy, you've got this. Don't worry about it. We'll have biryani. I love biryani after my races. So he was like, oh, I'll get you some biryani. And, just hearing their support and knowing, I mean, in some way, even your family is making sacrifices when you're out
Mm.
there. So thought about all of that, thanked the gentleman for his phone. He heard my entire conversation. And he was like, you've got this. Don't worry. You'll get there.
Mm.
And just that coming from a stranger meant a lot. Thanked him for his phone, gave it back to him, and plodded along.
Yeah. I'm reading this. I'm reading a book. By this Mark Manson's. Yeah, Mark Manson's. He wrote the
Hmm.
book. Yeah. So the first book he wrote was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. Right.
Okay.
It's a interesting title, but a great book where he's focused around self-expression and living your true self. And
Hmm.
he's written another book called Everything Is Effed. Okay.
That is
Um,
true.
and but the book is very philosophical. It's very deeply philosophical, but packaged in a pop easy to read format.
I
And
see.
he makes a point about embracing pain, you know
Hmm.
and why I thought about it is, in ultra running, we talk about pain caves. We're talking about, like you said, in ultra runners are, maybe they just embrace pain, right? You said addicted to pain, but I think it's more of, hey, bring it on, right?
Yeah.
um, which is a growth mindset in general. If you can't embrace pain, if you are not comfortable with
Hmm.
pain, mental or physical, you can't grow. And
True.
so I just want to maybe call that out. And that's a fascinating connection you make, just in terms of marathon, in ultras, as well as how you can take that back to your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. So one other thing that I wanted to check with you was safety for
Hmm.
women in trails, right? So roads, there are people, there are gas
Aid
stations, there's
station.
always
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
there. But trails, how do you train in trails, especially for women, from a safety standpoint? What do you do, and what do you recommend?
So, well, I'm a risk taker. So typically, I'm just out there running. But I think it's very smart to always have a phone.
Mm,
It's very smart to always buddy up with somebody. And also, if you can let people know what trail you're going to be on.
yeah.
Like my husband has my phone numbers of some of my close running friends. So I'll tell him, hey, if you don't hear from me in X amount of hours after a race, reach out to person A, B, or C. And if you let them know where I'm at, they'll probably know which trail I'm on. Um, but I think budding up with somebody is huge. Also, knowing, there's a very fine line between knowing how far you want to push yourself and how far
Mhm.
you really can go. Like 3 weeks ago, I was up running Black Mountain with a friend, and 6 miles into like 1500 elevation, I fell down and bruised my knee really badly. I didn't have a phone, but I did have to hobble down the 6 miles, all bleeding and bruised, till I got to my car. Now, had I not had a friend, I would have probably panicked and not known what to do. So I think having a buddy with you is very important. Like I said, letting people know where you're at, very important. Nutrition, carrying water, carrying some sort of edibles with you is also big, because you never know how heat and the other elements could affect you, or what kind of day you're having in general. Are you stressed out about work? Are you stressed out of the family? That sometimes plays a part in how you're going to train that day.
Mhm.
So just being mindful and mentally aware is key. And then the places I run at, they're frequented by a lot of hikers.
Okay.
I try to make it a point to greet a lot, pretty much everybody I pass, because especially on the trail, you never know when you might need somebody's help, and I don't want to be
Mhm.
that person that I passed somebody and ignored them, and then a little later I might need their help.
Yep.
So just being polite and maintaining good trail etiquette is also a part of safety, I would think.
Yeah. And we don't see many South Asian women in
Hmm.
ultras, right? I think the participation in marathons and road racing has definitely been
Higher
increasing.
than.
I'm talking in terms of in the US context, right?
Hmm.
Um, what do you think can, do you see better participation now happening in ultras, and is there a way to increase that?
Sure, it's happening. I think a lot of women who come here, first of all, we don't have a very big support system. You
Mhm.
come from India, you get married, you're here with your husband, you have your kids, and then again you have this guilt trip. I'm the wife, I'm the mother. How do I figure out how to take care of myself? And then you say like, okay, I'm gonna do a 5K. Then you do a 5K, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do a half, and I'm gonna stop at that because my kids need me more, and I can't
Mhm.
spend too much time on myself. Or they're like, okay, there's a training program, my friends are going to be a part of it, I'll be a part of it. And then once they hit that marathon distance, it's like, okay, been there, done that. I'm going to move on to a Zumba class or a Bollywood class or something.
Mhm.
But trying to push yourself to that next level, whether it's for fear of ridicule, because a lot of women are like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, she's so crazy, she runs all the time, do you not have a life? So
Yeah.
whether it's fear of, your friends saying, come on, come out for lunch, why are you running? Or whether it's fear of failure. I think for us
Mhm.
women as moms, we don't wanna we don't wanna we don't want to fail. We don't want to have anybody looking down on us, whether
Mhm.
it's our child, whether it's our spouse, whether it's the in-laws, whether it's our parents. We wear our Wonder Woman cape on,
Yeah.
and going anything more than marathon distance, one has to shed all your inhibitions, because when
Yeah.
you're running out there, you your fears, your darkest secrets, they come out with your running friends.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell my husband sometimes that I think my running friends know more of my fears than what he does,
Mhm.
because for him I still want to be the strong woman, but when I'm out running, I can cry, I can tell these guys I'm running with, I feel like shit right now, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
And for them to understand you, and that's huge. And then
Yeah.
because there are not a lot of women runners, you end up running with a lot of guys and you're spending
Mhm.
hours with them. So for that, it's a huge mindset for a lot of our
Yeah. Yeah.
Indian women. It's that, oh my goodness, I'm spending 8 hours of the day with some guys in the hills. What are people going to say? What are my
Yeah.
in-laws going
Yeah.
to say? What may my husband say? So road running is one thing, but when you get out on the trails, it's a very different ballgame. You're just another guy out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
No.
that's a big mind shift for
Yeah.
folks. Men too, actually.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's beautifully said. Probably need some kind of a uh, women's coalition, South Asian women coalition for ultras or something. I don't know if it exists in the US, but maybe something we should think about, where
Sure.
you can, share some of these tips and practices.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. I think there's a cultural element there, which you rightly pointed out. I too feel there is a cultural element. What do people say? Because I think culturally, especially among South Asian women, if you're taking care of your kids and your husband, you're a hero.
You're a good wife.
You're a good wife. You're a good person. If you're doing anything outside of that, and if if it's perceived at the expense of that, then it becomes a big,
Mm-hmm.
big battle. And some of those things have to, we'll have to find ways for supporting women to deal with that. So you
Yeah.
can have more women running ultras. I think America has such beautiful trails, and it's a beautiful land. And if men can experience it, I think
Why
women
not
should
women?
also.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you're
so we
right.
should figure something out there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. So what's next now? Where are you headed? What else is? What are you planning?
What am I planning? So last year with COVID, all the races got washed. So I just did a couple of virtual races. There was this great virtual race across Tennessee where you had to do 1,000 miles. So I finished that. And I was supposed to do the Fort Ord race last weekend, but because of my bummed knee, I couldn't. But I've signed up for the Rio de Lago 100 miler, which is in
Hmm.
November. So
Okay.
right now I'm kind of gearing up mentally and physically for that. That's going to be the granddaddy.
So that's like a step up for you in terms of
Yes,
distance.
that's a huge step up. So I've done 100K, but this 100 miler is going to be huge.
And in terms of training for this, right? And I've
Mhm.
not done a 100 miler, but what I've heard is you need to think about crew, you need to think about nutrition. So what are you doing about all of that? Are you do you have a coach for this, or are you doing it yourself?
No, I'm just running with friends. Well, I haven't started thinking about crew. With regards to nutrition, I'm a lizard on the trails. I barely drink enough water, so I really need to dial down my nutrition. But before I get to even thinking of the crew and pacers that I need, I want to be ready first, so that I don't fail anybody. So in the next month and a half or two, I'll know, where I'm at, what kind of pacers I need, and take it from there.
And what about volume of running? Is that kind of doubled up for you, dialed up for you for the 100 miler?
Oh, well, not really. I'm going to try to figure out. See, all along, I've just run. I've never had an agenda. I've never followed, a training plan. That one year when I did a 50K every month. I just would go and run the 50K, and during the week run, 10 or 12 miles up in the hills. But I think a 100 miler is a very different beast. Apart from being physically trained, I've heard from friends who've done 100 milers that it's more of a mental game, because your body can take you only so far, and after that it's your mind pushing your body to take it to the next level. So I'm trying to figure out how to dial down on my training program. I've never had, a lot of runners have easy, moderate, and hard days. I've never had that. I just go out and run. And I think to be successful in this, I'm going to have to figure out what training program might I need to kind of optimize um, my strength for this. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And what about injuries? Have you had to deal with injuries at all in your journey?
Oh, quite a few actually. I suffer from a herniated disc, so I was like bedridden for a few months. So that was huge for me. Every now and then, depending on what I do, it could be something as simple as picking up, a piece of paper, and I'm like, oh, my back. So this I started off this year seeing the chiropractor. So I was out for about a month, and then I fell down 3 weeks ago, and I've really busted my knee. So I'm just
Uh,
beginning to get back.
mhm.
I ran uh, last week for 4 miles, and my cardio is totally shot because I didn't run for nearly 3 weeks. And while I was running those jogging, walking, hobbling, whatever you want to call it, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm dying doing 4 miles. How the hell am I going to do like a 100 miler in 3 months? So right now, that is my biggest fear, is how to convince myself that, uh, trust what I've done the last few years, trust the process, that if I keep, building up slowly, I'll get my cardio back, and I should be well on my way.
So how's herniated disc, something like that, affected you emotionally? I mean, do you feel frustrated? I've seen a lot of
Yes,
runners go through a low, especially during injuries. How are you dealing with that?
it's very trying, because I didn't want to go see a doctor because I knew what the
Mm,
doctor would tell me is don't exercise for some time. And you listen to folks around you saying, okay, don't push too hard, don't push too hard, take it easy, you'll jeopardize, think of today, think of tomorrow, not today.
mm,
But it's easier said than done.
yeah,
As a person, you still want to push yourself to see, okay, have I done my best today, um, without risking a whole lot of
yeah,
injury.
yeah,
So it's tough. And then I'm hobbling around at home, and then I tell my husband, okay, I'm going for a run. He's like, you can't walk. What do you mean
yeah,
you're going for a run?
yeah,
um so everybody's very well meaning,
yeah,
but sometimes they don't. I feel they don't understand.
yeah,
It's like you want to do it because you want to see how far you can go.
yeah.
So
So
in
how are you
injuries,
dealing with it? What's your mantra to stay so you don't get buried in this phase?
well, I still go out there. I use an excuse of, hey, I'm going to walk the dogs, and I'll walk the
Mm,
dogs and try
mm,
kind of jog a little here and there. So there are ways to get it done.
yeah, yeah. Do
There
you
are
try
ways.
things like meditation and stuff to just kind of stay calm?
Sometimes, yes. It helps.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we wish that you get well soon. And I know this is for most recreational and athletes in general, when you have a injury, it's probably the most trying time
Hmm.
mentally, because like you said, you want to go out there and get it. You know you can, but there's this little nagging, either a knee or an ankle or a back, that needs to heal.
Yeah.
So we shall wish and pray that you get
Thank you.
up and running soon,
Thank you.
and
Thank
be
you
ready
very
for the
much.
100 miler.
Yes, that's the plan. Thank you so much.
So terrific. So I think we covered quite a lot of ground. Where it all started,
Hmm.
your pivot into running long distances and ultras and trails, and we kind of maybe coming to a wrap up here. Um, Before we wrap up, I do have a fun Q&A round,
Sure.
which I have. I asked my guests a few set of questions. So I have some for you too.
Sure. Fire
You
away.
ready for that?
Yep.
All right. And you've seen some of my episodes, or some of them you probably know, but let's hope we can, let's hope you're not expecting these questions. And my first question, maybe you already answered it, but let's see if it's the same thing that I think it is. Your favorite junk food?
Twix candy bars.
Okay, you said that just in the beginning.
Yes.
We definitely should have had them sponsor this. You mentioned them at least a couple of times. All right. What's your favorite run gadget?
I need music.
Hmm.
So for me, anything that where I can listen to my music is something I need. And I listen to country music when I run, like 40s,
Wow.
50s English country music. So it's sometimes very slow. It's very upbeat, but I'm an old school girl.
Wow. Country. That's interesting. And you said you listen to music when you're on trails. Now,
Hmm.
does that? I find that when you're on trails, if you're not watching your feet, I at least have face palm many times.
Hmm.
So does that happen to you, listening to music and running in trails? Does it? Do you lose focus?
Sometimes, which is why I fell down the last time, right? But running with music for me is it just takes me away.
Hmm.
Like I said, I listen to a lot of the music that I grew up with.
Yeah.
So it takes me back to my childhood, and which was a very different place from where I am now. So yes,
Yeah.
I need my music when I run. Unless, of course,
Any,
I'm running with a group of friends, then we're always chitty chatting and all.
yeah.
But otherwise, I enjoy my music.
Any favorite song that is uplifting? Your
Uh,
most favorite?
there's 500 Miles by the Pretenders, I believe. That's one of the songs on my playlist. And I listen to a lot of Whitney Houston when I run.
Mhm.
I listen to a lot of Elvis Presley and Tammy Wynette. They're all really old musicians.
Nice. Lovely. So, something you love to do when you're not dreaming up of running in the trails?
What do I do? I'm cooking or baking. I enjoy baking, so I'm
Oh,
usually
okay.
baking if I'm not running. I'm not a shopper. I detest shopping. I detest going to the malls. I'm not a massage person. I don't like going to the spa. So you won't find me at any of those places. But if I'm not running, I'm cooking at home. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, so I can't even say,
Okay.
you'll find me on the couch watching TV.
So, cooking and baking.
Yes, I'm not a very good cook, but I enjoy baking. We do a lot of desserts. So,
Oh, nice.
um, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. A favorite place you want to travel? One now that travel is becoming a possibility again.
Hmm. I would like to go back to Iran. I was born in Iran. We left when I
Really?
was 3. And
Okay.
my parents say that the country was really beautiful. So if I
Mhm.
do get a chance to visit, that is probably one place I would like to go back to.
Nice. Nice. All right. The last one, which is a question I ask all my guests. Let's see what you have for this. Is if we made a movie about your journey or your life, what genre would you place it in, and who would you like to play your character?
Oh my, that's a tough one. Um, I would. Oh, this is a tough one. I would go with Julia Roberts to play me.
Ah, nice. Good choice.
I
Julia
would go with
Roberts,
her.
that's a script coming your way.
Ah, cool.
Julia Roberts would be nice too. I like Julia Roberts
Yeah,
too. Yeah, I
she's
think.
a fun person. But I know I digressed with the Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if you've watched that movie,
Yes.
but it is such an uplifting movie to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
A salvation lie within. That at the end of the day comes down to, when you're running, it's all within you.
Yeah.
What you do with the next step you have, what you do with the next smile you have, it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
within.
Well said. Beautiful. So, hey, Ekta, we're kind of coming to the wrap up here. And before we wrap up, I'd like to give you the last word. Anything else that you want to convey to our audience?
Sure. Ultra running is just running is a great place, is a great thing to do for your mind, body. It's a great way to encourage people around you. I just wish that more women would get into it, just to see the advantages and
Mhm.
just to feel so much more empowered than what they are. Women are strong, but taking it to the next level is something that only we can do for ourselves. And I think finding that is such a phenomenal feeling.
Yep.
So yeah,
Well said. Well said. Yep. We like to hope to probably your story inspires and gives confidence to more women to come out there and explore the trails, do the ultras, and push the distance.
yeah,
And yeah, and hopefully we can do something to make it easy for everybody as well. So,
absolutely.
uh, Ekta, thanks for taking your time out this afternoon and
Sure.
sharing your story. I'll let you go and have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll stay in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Santosh. Appreciate you having me. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Take
Bye.
care.